He opened the security app, expecting to catch her slipping up 11 caregivers before it failed him, stolen from him, betrayed him, left his sons worse than they found them. Ever since his wife died delivering the triplet, ever since those 3 fragile boys entered the world paralyzed and fighting for their lives, he trusted no one. So when the feed loaded and he saw those 3 wheelchairs sitting empty in the middle of the living room, his stomach dropped. Then he saw them, his 3 paralyzed sons, standing, taking steps, walking toward her outstretched arm. For a moment, Adrian Locke forgot how to breathe. He blinked once, twice, 3 times, but the image didn't change. Evan's small feet shuffled forward. Ezra leaned heavily to the side, but didn't fall. Eli's legs trembled like thin branches caught in a storm, yet they moved. He watched them take their awkward, desperate steps toward the maid, Mila, as though she were the sun pulling them out of a long, cold winter. Adrian's fingers tightened around his phone, like he was holding on to the last scrap of sanity. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be happening. Every doctor he ever hired, every specialist he flew in, every therapy he paid for, every miracle cure he prayed over, none of it worked. But here, in the center of the living room of his silent mansion, 3 children who had never moved beyond assisted stretching and rigid slumping in wheelchairs were taking steps toward a woman who had been here for only 17 days. He pressed closer to the screen, his heart pounding so loud the rhythm shook through his rib. The maid knelt, her arms open, her eyes shining with warmth, her lips parted in awe as the boys used every ounce of strength their small bodies had to get closer to her. She looked like someone witnessing a sunrise after a lifetime of darkness. "What are you doing?" he whispered to the phone, as if the tiny rectangle could answer him. "How are you doing this?" But the boys didn't look afraid. They didn't look strange. They looked alive. Every step was small, unsteady, shaking, but the determination in their eyes was unmistakable. They wanted her. They trusted her. They followed her voice, the same voice he had barely heard in the past 2 weeks because she kept mostly to herself, moving quietly through the house, speaking only when needed, cleaning without sound, tending to the boys with an attentiveness that felt almost old-fashioned. He didn't notice when he sank into the office chair behind him. Only when his phone began slipping from his damp fingers did he jerk back into awareness. His office walls seemed to close in. The framed photo of his wife, glowing, pregnant, hopeful, stared at him from a mahogany desk. The haunting piece of art he had commissioned in her memory suddenly felt too heavy for the wall. The entire world seemed to tilt as if gravity itself couldn't believe what he was seeing. The boys had been born fighting. His wife had died trying to bring them into the world. And for years, the triplets lived in a blur of surgeries, hospital rooms, ventilators, failed treatments, and sleepless nights with machines beeping beside them. Doctors called it a miracle they survived. Even if survival meant paralysis and fragile lungs and muscles with no strength. He had accepted that fate because he had no other choice. But this imagery on the tiny screen defied every medical explanation, every cold prediction, every limit the world had handed them. A sudden movement in the camera feed snapped him back. Ezra stumbled. Adrian lurched forward, almost shouting, but Mila's hand shot out just in time. She caught the boy gently, supporting him with a delicate precision that showed how well she knew their weaknesses. She whispered something, and although the microphone barely caught it, Adrian heard the softness threading her words, reassurance, praise, and a warmth so deep it almost cracked his chest. The little boy smiled. Adrian hadn't seen that expression in so long that he forgot what it looked like. When Evan reached her, she wrapped her arms around him with the gentlest restraint, careful not to overstimulate his fragile muscle. Eli pressed his forehead into her shoulder as though she were his anchor in a world that had always been unsteady. Adrian's breath trembled. Were they walking because of her? Because they felt safe? Because she coaxed something out of them that no doctor ever noticed? Or was it something else entirely? A sound escaped him, a half sob, half laugh of disbelief. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Completely impossible." His hands shook as he dropped the phone onto the desk. He stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. He had to see it with his own eyes. He had to know if this was real or just desperation tricking him. His legs carried him down the hallways before he even registered moving. He passed the half-finished nursery he never had the heart to complete. He passed the guest room that had become a storage of abandoned medical equipment. He passed the paintings his wife had chosen, each one now echoing with memories he tried so hard to bury. His footsteps thundered to the mansion, bouncing off walls that had known nothing but silence for months. When he reached the living room doorway, he froze, and the sight gutted him all over again. The boys weren't standing now. They were nestled in Mila's lap, resting their exhausted limbs on her like she was their shelter. Their heads leaned against her shoulders. Their eyelids fluttered from overstimulation and effort. They looked peaceful, completely at peace, something he didn't even know they were capable of. Mila looked up slowly. "Oh, sir," she stammered gently, her voice tight with surprise. "You're home early." She looked like someone who had been caught doing something she wasn't sure was allowed, something something secret, something fragile. Adrian scanned every inch of her face, searching for deceit, for hidden motives, for anything that could justify what he saw on that screen. But all he found was sincerity and worry and something else, something he hadn't expected in this house for a long time. Devotion. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice scraping out of him like stone dragged across cement. Mila's grip tightened instinctively on the boys, an automatic protective reaction that pulled at something deep in his chest. He had been so cold with her, so distant, so doubtful. Yet here she was, shielding 3 children who weren't even hers. They just wanted to try something new today, she whispered, and I stayed close. They weren't in danger. Not in danger? He repeated, half shouting, half breaking. They were walking, Mila, walking. My sons, who couldn't even lift their arms a month ago, were walking. She flinched, but not because of fear, because she understood the weight of what he said. Yes, she said quietly. I know. How long? He demanded. How long has this been happening? She swallowed hard before answering. A few days. A few days. She winced. I didn't want to give you false hope. I needed to be sure it wasn't just a reflex or a one-time occurrence. How did you know what to do? He asked desperately. How did you make the move when no one else could? She sighed softly, her gaze falling to the floor. I listened to them, to their breathing, to their stiffness, to their exhaustion, to their fear. Fear, he repeated. They weren't afraid of you. No, she said gently. They weren't afraid anymore. They were afraid of everything before. Her voice trembled. They'd been afraid their entire lives. He knew. God, he knew. He lived every day trying to keep them alive. He spent nights watching their chests rise and fall to make sure they didn't stop breathing. He battled hospital bills that even billionaires struggled to justify. He had built an entire medical wing into his house, but none of it gave them what she gave them. Safety, or maybe something deeper. Trust. Adrian's voice shook. Why didn't you tell me they were improving? Mila hesitated, then met his gaze with surprising steadiness. Because you wouldn't have believed me, and you would have told me to stop. He wanted to deny it, but he couldn't. He knew she was right. He would have intervened. He would have been terrified of hope. Hope had killed him once already, when the wife he loved never walked out of the delivery room, leaving him with 3 infants struggling to breathe. Mila, he whispered, almost pleading, tell me how this happened. Her eyes softened as she shifted the boys carefully onto cushions beside her. Once her hands were free, she intertwined her fingers nervously. I don't think I can explain it in a way that makes sense, she murmured. Try, he whispered. I need to understand. She paused for a long moment, inhaling slowly. It's the way they look at me, she said quietly. The way their muscles respond when I touch them. The way their breathing slows when I speak. She looked up at him, her eyes shimmering. It's like someone is guiding me. His stomach clenched. Who? She closed her eyes briefly. Your wife. His heart nearly stopped. What? Not literally, she said quickly, shaking her head. Not as a ghost or spirit. I mean, I feel what a mother might feel. I hear myself saying things a mother would say. I hold them the way a mother would. And every time I try something new, something I've never been trained for, something just tells me what to do, as if someone is whispering, showing me how to reach them. The room felt too small, too quiet. His breathing turned shallow. He stared at this woman, this stranger, who somehow knew the lullaby his wife used to hum, who knew how to hold the boys the same way she did, who spoke with the same gentle rhythm his wife had used when she was alive. His mind tried to push the idea away. It was impossible, irrational, emotional nonsense. But today, everything about today was impossible. His sons walked. He knelt beside them, one hand trembling as he touched Ezra's cheek. When the boy leaned into the touch, something inside Adrian shattered. All the anger, all the fear, all the grief, all the nights he sat alone, hating himself for surviving when she didn't. Ezra reached up a hand toward him, small, fragile, shaking, and Adrian kissed his finger. When he looked up, Mila was watching with an expression he couldn't decipher. Respect, sadness, hope, regret, a mix of emotions too complicated for someone who had only known this family for a handful of days. Mila, he said softly, his voice trembling in a way he hated. How many things are you not telling me? She held his gaze, her own steady and unbearably sad. A lot. His breath hitched. Why? She blinked and a tear slipped down her cheek, not from fear, but from something deeper, something haunted. Because your sons aren't the only ones who came here to be healed. The words hung in the air, heavy and electric. Something about them made his skin prickle. Something told him she wasn't talking about a broken heart or a rough past. Her eyes carried too many secrets for that. Too many shadows. Too much weight. For the first time since his wife died, Adrian felt a new kind of fear. Not a fear for his children. No. For the first time, he feared what he didn't know. And he feared what he might discover about the woman who held the key to the miracle unfolding in his living room. The silence that followed Mila's confession was unlike anything Adrian had ever felt. Not even the silence of hospital room, where machines beeped faintly under blankets of dread, felt like this. That silence silence had been heavy with fear. This one felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to break. Adrian stared at her, at the tears slipping down her cheek, at the way her fingers trembled as she folded them into her lap. He didn't know what he expected her to say next. Maybe that she had a tragic childhood, or that she came here to escape something awful, or that fate had drawn her to this house. But that wasn't what her eyes held. Her eyes held something more. Something she wasn't sure she had permission to give voice to. He swallowed hard, forcing his voice through the tightness in his throat. What do you mean you came here to be healed? Mila didn't look away. She didn't shrink back. She didn't rush to explain. She simply inhaled a shaky breath and placed a hand gently over Ezra's small back as the boy slept against her side. Sir, she said softly, you think you hired me? A strange, cold shiver ran up his spine. I did hire you, he said, though the certainty in his voice cracked. From the agency? Yes, she whispered. But the agency didn't send me. Adrian's breath caught. What are you talking about? I spoke to them myself. You spoke to someone, she said gently, but not from the agency. Her words felt like sharp, icy drops sliding down his skin. That's impossible. Is it? She asked, her voice faintly trembling. You of all people saw something impossible today. She had him there. His sons walked. The triplets, paralyzed since birth, walked. His throat felt like it was closing. Then who sent you? He asked hoarsely. And why? She looked down at her hand. Someone who wanted you to have one more chance at believing in life again. Stop speaking in riddles, he snapped, the fear twisting his tone sharper than he intended. My children, my sons, are involved. You need to tell me the truth. Her shoulders curled inward, as if a sudden gust of memory chilled her. I am telling you the truth, she whispered. Just not the whole of it yet. He stepped closer. Then give me the whole of it. For a moment she didn't answer. Her eyes flickered toward the large glass doors of the living room that opened to the garden. The afternoon sun filtered in, spreading warm streaks across the marble floor. The boys breathed softly in their cushion, fragile as touch, yet stronger than they had ever been. Mila gently adjusted Eli's blanket, her fingers lingering over his ribs for a moment, as if she was feeling the faint rise and fall of each breath. Then she exhaled, slow and broken. Sir, she began, I am not here because I needed a job. Adrian frowned. Then why? Because I needed a place where the pain inside me couldn't drown me anymore. She placed a hand on her chest. I needed to be somewhere where I could feel something again. Anything. Her words were carved out of raw sorrow. I thought I had no more purpose left in me, she whispered, until the day I walked through your doors and saw your sons for the first time. She smiled faintly, eyes glossed with tears, and they looked at me like I wasn't invisible. Adrian's anger softened slightly, confusion intertwining with something else. Empathy, maybe, but he still didn't understand. What pain? He asked gently. What happened to you? Her breath wavered. I lost someone, she whispered. Someone I loved more than anything. Adrian felt the echo of grief slam into him. He knew that pain too well. Who? He asked. My daughter, she replied, voice cracking. She died last year. She was 3. The room tilted. Adrian's breath froze in his chest. I'm sorry, he whispered, and the sincerity in his voice startled them both. She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks silently. After she passed, she continued, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't function. I couldn't be in a home full of her memory. She closed her eyes as if the images were too sharp. She had a condition, muscular, rare. Her body grew weaker every day. I spent her whole life learning how to stretch her leg, how to move her arms, how to help her breathe easier. That snapped something open inside Adrian. You've worked with children like, yes, she said softly, like your son. His heart hammered. Did you heal your daughter too? She shook her head, tears falling harder. No, I couldn't save her. The honesty in those words tore something inside her, inside him, inside the room itself. She died in my arms, she whispered, begging to stay, begging to walk, begging to be strong. She looked at the triplets, her gaze softening into something maternal and aching. I failed her, sir. I failed the only person who ever needed me. Adrian's breath trembled. You didn't fail her, he said quietly, but she shook her head. When I saw your boys, she said, voice barely audible, I thought maybe I could save someone this time. Maybe I could make up for not being able to save her. She wiped her tears, trying to steady herself, but her face was cracked with grief and resilience battling for dominance. But that's not the whole truth, she whispered. There's more. Adrian asked, though his voice was gentler now, slower. Mila hesitated, fingers twisting nervously. When your wife died, she whispered, you weren't the only one who lost something. Those boys, they lost the one person who would have understood their bodies instinctively. What do you mean? She looked down. Mothers of disabled children. We learn things no textbook teaches. We learn to listen differently, to touch differently, to comfort differently. Her eyes met his. Your wife would have known how to reach them, how to make them trust, how to coax movement out of muscle that fears breaking. But she's gone, Adrian whispered. Yes, Mila said softly. But the boys, they still needed that kind of presence. She placed a hand over her heart. I didn't replace your wife. I could never. But something in them recognized something in me. Something familiar. Something safe. He swallowed painfully. You think that's why they started walking? No, she whispered. Not only that, she hesitated before adding, I think someone helped me. His brow furrowed. Someone. Her voice trembled. I don't mean a ghost or a spirit. I mean, she pressed her hand against her chest again. Sometimes when I hold them, I feel warmth. A warmth that doesn't belong to me. A warmth that feels like love. Fierce maternal love. Adrian's skin prickled. Mila, I feel guided, she whispered. Like someone is nudging my hand. Like someone is whispering what to do. Like someone is here. She didn't say the name. She didn't have to. Neither of them was foolish enough to think death severed every bond. Adrian felt his eyes burn. He looked at his wife's photo on the wall. Soft smile. Glowing eyes. Hope blooming in her face like dawn. For a moment, he let himself wonder, could grief be so powerful that it left shadows of love behind? Could love be so strong that it reached across time to help three fragile boys stand for the first time? Could a connection between mother and children transcend the limits doctors had set? Adrian sank onto the nearest sofa, elbows on his knees, burying his face in his hand. I don't know what to think, he murmured. I don't know what to believe. Mila nodded gently. I know, and I'm not asking you to believe anything impossible. I just want you to see what's in front of you. He looked up. Evan had rolled in his sleep, stretching an arm weakly. Ezra's chest lifted and lowered in steady breath. Eli's lips made tiny shapes as if he dreamed of talking. The sight struck him with a painful mixture of joy and despair. They walk, he whispered, like the words were too fragile. They walked toward you. Mila nodded, her voice catching. Because they trusted I wouldn't let them fall. He swallowed. Why? Because you've been protecting them so fiercely that they forgot how to feel safe, she said softly. You gave them shelter. You gave them medical care. You gave them everything except, she hesitated, except openness. The word hit him like impact. You built walls around them out of fear, she continued gently. You didn't let anyone close. You didn't let anyone love them the way they needed. I'm not blaming you. You did what you had to do, but they needed touch, softness, connection. They needed someone who wasn't afraid of losing them. Adrian's voice shook. I was afraid of losing everything. I know, she whispered. But sir, fear can't raise children. Only love can. He felt tears burning behind his lid. He didn't cry. He refused to cry. But something inside him cracked open anyway. His sons, his tiny, fragile son, had responded to Mila's presence in a way they never responded to him. They had leaned into her warmth. They had walked toward her voice. They had trusted her arm. And the truth had claws. They trusted her more than him. His voice trembled. Do they think I didn't love them enough? Mila shook her head instantly. No, they know you love them more than your own life. But love like yours, it's heavy. It carries grief. It carries fear. Her eyes softened. My love carries loss too. But it also carries knowledge, experience, instinct. She paused, then added quietly. And maybe someone guided me gently when I falter. He swallowed thickly. You think my wife is here. I think her love is, she whispered. The honesty in her voice didn't feel mystical or exaggerated. It felt pure, gentle, human. Adrian leaned back, staring at the ceiling as if it held answers. Why you, he asked. Why do they choose you? Mila hesitated, glancing at the triplets before answering. Because I needed them as much as they needed me. He frowned slightly. She continued. When your daughter died, who did you become? He closed his eyes as grief carved its name across his chest. A man who feared everything, he whispered. And when my daughter died, Mila said softly, I became a woman who felt nothing. Their eyes met. Grief recognized grief. Brokenness recognized brokenness. Maybe, she whispered, we were meant to heal each other without knowing it. The boys stirred again, as if agreeing. Adrian watched them for a long moment, then finally said, you said earlier that the agency didn't send you. So how did you get here? Her expression shifted. Fear, hesitation. Too many secrets swirling behind her gaze. Sir, she whispered, I didn't apply to the agency. Then how did you know to come? She swallowed hard. Because someone left an envelope on my doorstep with your address, with your son's medical record, and with a note. His heart nearly stopped. A note. One sentence, she said, voice trembling. It said, they need you, and you need them. Adrian's skin went cold. Who sent it? Her eyes met his with devastating honesty. I don't know. A heavier silence fell. Something ancient, something sacred, something terrifying. Sir, Mila whispered, voice cracking, I didn't come here to lie. I didn't come here to steal. I didn't come here to hurt anyone. I came because something told me I was meant to. Tears spilled down her cheek. And for the first time since my daughter died, I feel alive. Adrian's throat closed. He looked at his son, the 3 small miracles that defied science today. He looked at Mila, the woman who walked into his life, carrying grief that mirrored his own. He looked at the photo of his wife, the one who once promised she'd find a way to protect their children even if she couldn't stay. He whispered, "Why does it feel like she's the one who sent you?" Mila's breath hitched, because maybe she did. And in that moment, neither of them could deny the impossible truth unfolding quietly inside that sunlit room. Somehow, in some way, love had bridged a gap wider than death, wider than grief, wider than the broken pieces of 2 shattered parents, bringing this woman to his home, guiding her hand, and helping 3 fragile boys stand a first time. And it was only the beginning.